Story 1. Learn to say no to big decisions even under immense pressure from people. You don't have to agree to do anything that's not fair to you, even if it makes the other person upset. Yes, that's right. Story 2. Getting serious about taking care of myself and moving my career forward. It's a lot of hard work, and I wish I had gotten into these habits long before I actually did. Story 3. In my career, agreeing to take on a job that I wasn't quite sure I was capable of handling, I would take on the job, go home and say, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this," work hard until I could do it, then show up and do the job as well as I possibly could. I can't remember the exact time I first put myself into a situation like that, but I have done it several times over the years, and it has almost always worked out well and gotten me a reputation as being really good at my job. I don't know what self-confidence feels like. I don't think I've ever felt it. For me, the feeling has always been of jumping out of an airplane and learning how to work a parachute on the way down. You get a marvelous sense of pride and relief when it's over, and you're a little bit less shy of trying the next thing, and that's about it. For me, if I'm not at least a little bit scared, I'm not working at my full potential. Story 4. Dropping everything to pick up my son before his mother could move 6 hours away with him. She went down a bad path for a few years, and when I got the text that she was moving and taking him with her, I dropped everything and went to get him before she could. Thank God my boss at the time was a good dude. I told him the situation, and he told me to drop everything and go. I didn't even have to ask. He just said, "Go get your son." 10 years later, and my son is doing well. It hasn't been a perfect journey, but through the ups and downs, he's turned into a great young man. Edit. Damn, this thing blew up a bit. I wanted to thank everyone for the positive comments and the awards. It's all appreciated. Story 5. Quit letting misery, pessimism, and cynicism guide how I lived. Quit making massive assumptions about huge groups of people. Realize that purpose, happiness, and opportunity are things that you create. You cannot just wait for things to get better. If you are not doing something to make them better, things stay exactly as they are. Story 6. Quitting my old job to join a former coworker's new company. Spent 10 years at my old job and was making $60,000 by the end. 4 years at the new job, and I'm already up to $140,000 plus more paid time off and fewer on-call weeks. Story 7. Checking myself into rehab. I was 23 and completely hopeless. With the way I was abusing substances, I probably wouldn't have survived another 6 months to a year, whether by overdose or suicide. Now I'm over 5.5 years sober, and my life is full, rich, successful, and happy. It was the hardest decision I ever made, and the best one. Story 8. Accepting your past mistakes. Accepting that the death of a close family member can derail your life, and it might take a while until you are able to get back on track. My mother got lung cancer and died after a year of chemotherapy while I was in the middle of studying. I was slacking off at university beforehand, totally on me and no one else. Then the cancer happened, which didn't help. I also had to support my sister. Her father didn't want to pay full child support because he is a cheap person, so we took him to court, and he now pays what he must pay. I was also working 30 hours weekly. When people ask me why I haven't finished my studies yet, I tell them that I slacked off and that the death of my mother derailed my life. It took some time to accept that trying to balance everything at once won't work. Story 9. To swallow my pride and take a second job in 2019. I was in debt, barely making ends meet, and falling behind on my student loans. I said forget it and started delivering pizza in my Lexus. Delivered to friends, got laughed at. My colleague at my day job took a picture of my car with the topper on and turned it into a joke. I made so much extra money in 2020 I quit my full-time job 3 months before the pandemic. Kept delivering pizza and working on this side business I was interested in. In March of 2020, my pizza delivery money skyrocketed. I got a new full-time job in June 2020, and now I have no credit card debt, less than $8,000 in student loans, and I am using my finance degree underwriting mortgages. I met my now wife while I was delivering pizza. I paid off my car and my credit cards. We moved out of my apartment and into a house, and I am in a fantastic financial situation, all thanks to Domino's Pizza. Story 10. Once I was hungry. I had 2 frozen pizzas. At first, I thought about making one and eating it, then making the second one afterward. But then I thought, why not make them simultaneously and put one on top of the other? Story 11. Going to college at 23. I went from serving tables and cooking to working in information technology. I am 26 now, and my future is more promising than ever. Student loans are difficult, but I know I can pay them off by living with my mom and dad for an extra 2 years. Story 12. Getting divorced. Total mental collapse. Didn't think I'd make it out the other side, but it had to be done. Unrepentant infidelity is kind of hard to forgive. Story 13. Leaving my ex. I was doing great in life before meeting her, and 2 years later I'm slowly rebuilding to what I had. Even though I love her very much, we were very toxic. Story 14. To plead guilty to a crime I did not commit. It was that or fight my case from behind bars for possibly years and very possibly losing at trial. The district attorney had proven more than willing to lie just to get the charges filed. I did not doubt that they would lie again to win. Story 15. I used to think it was joining the military because it gave me so many advantages after, but really it was marrying a woman who is smarter and wiser than me, who inspires me to do better and be better and is supportive. Story 16. Marrying my wife. I really never thought she could be my best friend. But here we are together since 1995 and married since 1997. We have 3 kids and are still students of each other. Story 17. To restart my last high school year after I got cancer. I got cancer at 17, which was pretty rough, especially because I was already depressed at the time. It affected me deeply, but I had the opportunity to continue my last high school year and get to university. I decided to take a break to stabilize my mind, even though everyone except my parents tried to discourage me. In that year and the following, I became much more intellectually mature, gained some trust in myself, and achieved much better grades. With these and my excellent high school diploma, I got into the prestigious school I wanted. I have graduated, made incredible friends that will last a lifetime, and now have a good job with responsibilities. None of it would have happened that smoothly without my choice. Story 18. To take responsibility for my own life instead of blaming others. I feel like I hit a fork in the road of my life where I was either going to become jaded and resentful of other people or become someone who actually made active decisions to fix what was in my control. I luckily took the latter, and while things are far from perfect, they are at least products of active decision-making. Story 19. Love the person my parents told me no to because of cultural differences. She is amazing and the best woman I ever met who loves me for me. My parents just don't want me to be with someone who isn't the same culture as me. Story 20. I left Facebook and Instagram to focus more on those in front of me exactly 30 days ago. I struggle to think of a single decision in my adult life that has been more positively impactful to overall mental health, well-being, relationships, and career. Story 21. Leaving a toxic relationship. She didn't want to help pay bills but wanted all the finer things in life, as well as always talking negatively about me to my face and behind my back. Story 22. To join the swim team in high school, my friends were all athletes in basketball, soccer, football, and lacrosse, but I just wasn't athletic enough. So, I joined the swim team even though I got made fun of for it. I ended up being the captain of the swim team, and we were one of the best teams in the state. It taught me so much about teamwork, hard work, confidence, and leadership. Most importantly, I'm 30 and still swim, and I'm in better shape than all my buddies from high school. Story 23. Prioritizing doing what makes you happy for a career. I had a stable, well-paying job, but I never felt fulfilled. I never gave up on doing what I love for a career. I had a childhood dream job that I had been trying to land for years. It is a very competitive job market, and there were times that I questioned whether it would ever happen and whether I was wasting my time and money on a silly childhood dream. Happy to say it's been 2 years now, and it's even better than I ever imagined. I feel fulfilled and happier than I've ever been. It makes me a better partner and a better father. Every little bit of effort I put into getting here was worth it. Story 24. I made 3 of them. Those are getting out of all of my 3 relationships. I am horrible at choosing women for love. By horrible, I mean literally total mental chaos, which totally destroys me from the inside out. I feel grateful to everyone around me who helped me get out of all those relationships. And I honestly feel that I made the best decision all 3 times. I hope I do not have to repeat this cycle anymore. I have learned my lesson. Story 25. Moving away from my hometown without a plan or any life skills at 19. It was hard, and I fell on my face a lot, but I made amazing friends who cared for me and learned to stand on my own 2 feet. I met the love of my life a few months later, ended up at my dream job, and am living a very blessed life. It's not always easy, but if I hadn't taken the leap, I wouldn't have learned what I have and grown how I have, and I'm very grateful for the journey. Story 26. Buying a house and putting a solid amount of my income into savings at an early age. The housing market after 8 years and compounding interest after 10 years has started to make a big difference in my financial well-being. Story 27. Go back to school and finish my engineering degree. I know people like to criticize tuition and the perceived uselessness of a 4-year degree, but it worked out for me. Story 28. Quit religion. Fully quit after a long fight with everything around me revolving around it and beating me up without helping in the slightest, and saying it's God's way. Now my whole community knows I quit, and I succeed well enough to rub it in their faces. Story 29. When I was in high school, we all used to go on the weekends to this large medical and commercial development that didn't have any buildings yet. We would drink, build bonfires, and do dumb high schooler stuff. One night, I drunkenly wandered off to explore one of the nearby sites where some dirt work was starting, and there were several large machines there, including a huge Caterpillar bulldozer. I climbed up into the seat and saw there were keys in it. I sat down, turned the key, and saw the panel light up. Oh, man, this is going to be epic. Then it just sort of hit me. This is a bad idea. Best case scenario, this ends up with tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to something. Worst case, I end up killing one or more of my friends. Then I turned off the key, climbed down, went back to the party, and told no one. Story 30. Moving out of my parents' house. At the time, I was extremely unsure of myself, and it didn't help that I endured a lot of emotional abuse. My parents were trying to keep me as an eternal child, which in retrospect is just morbid. But I went to therapy, laid out all my feelings, and we determined it was in my best interest to rip off that bandage and go for it. Otherwise, I would be stuck in a bad situation. Story 31. Coming out of the closet. It was freeing to stop caring about what people thought of me and simply do what I enjoy. Rather than trying to fit with what people wanted from me, I could just be myself. Story 32. Not quitting after being expelled from my university when I had a 0.86 grade point average. I could have easily retreated, been in $30,000 of student debt, working a minimum wage job, back living with my parents. Instead, I decided what I wanted my new life to look like. Finished school with a low 3-point-something grade point average, got married, traveled the world, had a child recently, and now make 6 figures a year. Story 33. Getting divorced and giving my ex a lump sum payment instead of letting her touch my retirement and pension. $50,000 was definitely cheaper than giving her 50% of my military retirement for the rest of my life. Story 34. I joined the French Foreign Legion. I was in a bit of a rut with 4 jobs at the same time. I was literally working myself to death. The straw that broke the camel's back happened at my factory job. I worked in a glass factory, and after a few close calls, my left arm bore the wrath of a rogue glass plate. Apparently, we had such a poor tone that the glass plate decided a fun practical joke would be to unskin my left arm. I looked over at my neighboring machine operator for advice. You know what surprised me the most working at a glass factory? How deep the cuts are, with this being the full extent of support offered. I lucked out with a mechanic's apprentice who literally had to steal a little bandage. We got myself patched up, and I finished up my workday, made my decision, and started planning to leave. I quit all jobs within a week and went traveling through Europe with one of my closest friends for a month. We split ways in Berlin, and I knocked on a certain door that has since granted me with a life enriched with cultural influence from all corners of the world, while at the same time getting paid to learn a new language and go places to do things most people will only ever see on television. Story 35. I moved across the country to try out a fresh life. It was almost a year ago, and I'd say it's been a year of learning and growing. I found the girl I will marry. I have gone on adventures I could never forget. Story 36. I definitely, without question, asked the right person to marry me. She changed my life, and I adore my in-laws and pretty much that whole side of the family. Great, great people. I'm so lucky. Story 37. Fighting for custody of my daughter. Spent over $50,000. Sleepless nights only to win full custody where she has the ability to make zero decisions. For years, I watched my ex tell my daughter lies about me and rarely said anything. I let my daughter believe what she said because I didn't want my daughter to think badly about her mom. Fast forward 8 years later, I walk into the house to find my daughter crying because her mother called her a psychopath because she didn't call her first thing in the morning to wish her a happy birthday. That's when I started telling her some of the things her mother did. I'm having to teach my daughter that she will have to set boundaries with her mother or she will end up like her mom and grandmother.